Welcome to Compassion Speak. These podcasts explore spiritual and self-care topics, adding wisdom, creative ideas, and strategies to play with, to increase your options and explore how to show up in a way that is new. My name is Sean Allison. I'm a medical intuitive, a chaplain, and a spiritual teacher at Journey Within in Lakewood, Colorado. This is my co-host, Cleo. She is a light worker, a glass artist, and as my student, has offered to take a deep dive into emerging gifts and talents.
So is changing energy going to be our topic?
Yeah, let's do that because I think it fits. It's the connective tissue with what I've been going through in my healing process, and what you experienced on your vacation.
Okay.
So let's start with the quote that I came up with this morning.
That would be great.
And then that would kind of help us tune into the energy and the meaning of today's topic. So I have a picture that caught my attention of a leaf with a bunch of water droplets on it. And just like the water droplets collect on this leaf, so energy is offered and exchanged. What if transformation allows one to receive at any vibration and restructure the intention and DNA to fit specific needs? By infusing incoming energy with love and compassion, it calibrates that energy. Intention reshapes DNA to function in a way that serves the recipient as they step into its treasures. One can even increase or decrease its amplitude. Like a breath of fresh air, a short-sighted expression can be received and transformed as that energy is put to work for its new purpose.
I love this. This is so, just you reading that sparks off in me all these experiences that I've had just in the past week and my recent vacation. And I can just think of all these examples that are so exciting of exactly that. One of my really exciting ones, which has been plaguing me for about 2 months. And I've been so proud of how I have not given up on this. I was offered, like 2 months ago, I was offered that the angels wanted to connect with me in a new, much deeper way. And I was very excited about this. And I have a mentor working with me on this. And I was really, really expecting something huge. And my expectations created this constant sense that something was terribly wrong. You know, in the beginning, I was like, okay, this is going to be great. Something's going to change. Nothing changed. I was like, okay, this is great. This is going to be really different. Nothing was different. Okay, I'm missing it. Something's wrong. Nothing is different. Nothing's different. Everything is fine. And because I could not stay in the present and just appreciate what I have always had with the angels, which is so powerful and so amazing, and to be constantly expecting something new to show up and, expecting, the fireworks, right? Something massive, and nothing is different. I totally spent all this time discounting everything that I already have that is so powerful and so wonderful and so beautiful. I started thinking there was something wrong with me. I started thinking that I am not ready to work with the angels, that I am too immature. And as this went on, I created more and more and more difficulties. And only just recently, just yesterday, did I realize the connection that I was offered is the connection that I already have. No one realized, the people who were trying to offer this to me, the person who I met who was like, oh, you could be connected this way, did not understand that I already have that. And so, completely through my own expectations, I created so much misery and frustration over the course of 2 months, thinking, well, I'm not doing this right. Well, I'm not doing enough. I'm going to try harder. This isn't, okay, I'm going to take a break. I drove my poor angels absolutely crazy with such frustration because I couldn't do even my normal work because I was constantly thinking that something was wrong. And that was all it took. And the minute that I accepted, wait a minute, nothing is wrong, everything is fine, nothing has to change. This is exactly what they're describing. What I already have is what they're describing. I suddenly was able to remember, do you know how people describe, well, enlightenment is really remembering all of the perfection that you already are? Which for me is not how I would describe it. But that was what this was like. That was what this was like. For the first time, I was like, that's right. All I have to do is remember that everything is already exactly the way I wanted it to be.
Yeah, I would love to back up just a little bit and reinforce that illusion starts off as a thought, and as you bring it into fruition, there is a timing involved before it becomes an activity or an action. And I really like how you are focusing on that first and upper experience of thought and intention, and seeing and allowing for that to build in meaning.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm always very envious of your ability to manage that time period. People talk about time management, right? And that is exactly what you're describing here in talking about changing, choosing, setting the intention for the energy that's present, having the presence to be able to recognize what this moment is instead of just rushing forward and diving into it like most of us do all day, every day, never actually able to stop and say, wait a minute, what is this energy? Wait a minute, what is trying to happen here? Wait a minute, what if I pause and breathe and bring the angels in before I answer that? Being able to stop and recognize, wait, this is a moment of creation. It's not a moment of reaction. It could be a moment of reaction, but keeping it a moment of thoughtful, intentional creation.
Beautiful. And sometimes it requires editing.
Mm.
By that, I mean that while it is going on, it's not in sequence. It becomes in sequence through looking at in hindsight
Mm.
and watching how, acknowledging how things come together. I'm in my 5th week of regaining my wellness. It started off with the flu, and then I had COVID tests. They came back negative. It turned into walking pneumonia, and I spent a lot of time on my back, sleeping and resting and giving my body what it needed to to get through this long lesson. Mm-hmm. And at times it was excruciating just to lay there and allow myself to not think, rather channel that energy back into my body that needed support with its immune system, fighting bacteria, whatever was going on in that healing process. Thoughts were tempting me to go into directions where I have been known to hurt myself in the past. Worrying about bills not getting paid because I'm not able to work, and I'm on the road, and I'm in host families' homes and taking up their personal space, or their public space on the couch while I'm trying to heal, and I am so out of it with fever and chills that I can't take care of myself, right? But it's in these moments that I can choose to just be miserable, or ask my body, since I can feel every joint in my body, begin that dialogue of what I need to change. What needs to happen differently? How do I need to approach this so that I can have this experience be valuable? And a lot of that value and meaning is now becoming is coming into view, coming into focus. While I was going through it, I had to trust that what I was doing right now is best for my body, and what can I manage, and how can I represent myself and care for myself in a way that's in high esteem, that will support what I need to happen instead of worrying about what I cannot control.
This story
So
is
I think,
so much more harrowing than you've even described it. I just want everyone to know I'm not going to go into details, but it was so much worse than what you're describing, and painful and frightening and overwhelming, um, and in all of that, um, I know that for the family that you were staying with, having someone who is not a family member, who is invited to come and stay, suddenly terribly, terribly ill, laying in the living room. Um, I think that was probably a tremendously transformative and beautiful opportunity for them to be giving in a way that many of us rarely get to be giving in our lives.
I remember one conversation we had during that time period, and that was on the day that I had enough strength to actually get out of the house and get my COVID test for the second time. And it was very encouraging for you to invite me into that gratitude, because I was feeling like I was infecting their home with not just an experience, but a responsibility that they didn't ask for. Mm-hmm. And I was feeling guilty because of that. Mm-hmm. And you invited gratitude, which allowed me to go back and not say, I'm sorry that I infected your space with all these bugs, but to say, thank you. I was not able to take care of myself, and you took me in.
Yeah.
And that's a point that we all revisited when I left yesterday, or day before yesterday. Mm-hmm. I left their home to head back to Denver. Mm-hmm. And I brought it up again. Mm-hmm. I said, it was important to me how you were there for me.
Yeah.
And I just feel a profound sense of gratitude.
Yeah.
And for your generous support and care. And that felt so much more expansive than, I'm sorry for infecting your space. Yeah, you know?
That's a perfect.
I'm glad it wasn't COVID. Before we got the test back, I mean, all of us were like, what if it is COVID? And oh my goodness, you
Yeah.
brought this into my family and da 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 da. But,
Yeah.
you know, that's where we need to step into the softness of how the world speaks to us, how the universe is there in an intimate way.
Mm.
Because from those subtle moments, we can shift our attitude and go from a place of lack or fear into the spaciousness of gratitude and generosity.
Yeah.
And that moves the healing into a whole new level.
Yeah.
Because not only can the body have less stress to manage while it gets back online, it also nourishes and feeds the soul as you make your way through the process. And I would really like to bring up a cue for you to talk about an exchange that happened between Liam and his grandfather, and how that fits in to this energy exchange that we have more influence and control over once it is in our space to really change the outcome and how it functions.
Thank you for inviting me. That's so kind. We were just traveling and for Thanksgiving visited my family in Maryland, and my son, who is 10 years old, was really excited about some ice cream for dessert. My dad, his grandfather, is very ill and having a very difficult time. And he can kind of stagger around pretty well, but he doesn't really leave the house anymore. So he got out the ice cream, trying to be the provider, trying to be the big man of the house, who's now going to scoop ice cream for everybody. And he dropped the ice cream box on the floor face down so that the whole loaf of vanilla ice cream was sitting on the floor when he picked up the box. And, you know, in my family, that would be so funny. My husband and I and my son would have had a million hilarious things to say about this. And what I grew up with was a whole lot of incredibly negative energy. And my dad proceeded to create exactly what he has created for himself for his whole life. God bless him. I wish I could heal this for him. And he proceeded to start cursing, and mainly at himself, in a absolutely sad and awful way that really, one of the best ways for me to really understand my experience as a child and with my parents is to recognize that my dad's energy can be huge. It can be the size of a planet. You know, when he is angry, it fills the whole house. And everyone is frightened for no reason. You know, it is, he has created this and he has this power. And my son, under all the pressure of that huge planet of rage, which everyone in the house was silent and no one dared say a word, my son walked straight up to him and said, "Grandpa, you're not stupid. It was an accident." And it popped that bubble. The whole house was peaceful in a moment. My dad was peaceful. The whole kitchen was peaceful. And he just picked up the ice cream and went back to what he was doing. And it was amazing. It was so beautiful and powerful. And my son has done this for me many times because I certainly have that same temper that my dad has, where I can suddenly be so rageful, and I try very hard to go, oh, there it is again. There's my big planet-sized rage. How funny, what can I do with it? And many times my son will walk up to me and go, oh, Mom, you do this for me all the time, Mom. You do this for me all the time. When I have a big rage, you tell me jokes. So, Mom, I'm going to ask you right now, why did the kid cross the playground? To get to the other slide. And even if it's not funny at the moment, it helps so much. And usually by the second or the third joke, we might all be laughing.
That reminds me of lots of experiences that I had when I was working at a group home. And sometimes behavior can be repetitious, and as people perseverate, they get stuck in this PSD loop. And when you throw in something that is out of context and that stops the thought process, you actually create an exit to that loop. And I'm reminded that slide, and why did the
kid cross the playground?
Cross the playground,
yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's great. That's a metaphor for the whole thing, isn't it? You cross the playground to get to a different slide. It's like the exit from your rage highway, right? I love it.
You got it.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah. And we have to remember that wisdom works the same way. It will arrive out of context and where it seems to not fit. And that's one way we can identify it.
Interesting. It seems to not fit. Interesting.
Yeah, so if you use the context of that perseveration or that thought process that loops around where you can't get out of it because you're stuck.
Yeah.
And then your son injects a thought that is totally out of context. And it gives you an escape route from that thought process because you weren't expecting it.
Right.
So it allows you a point of entry and a point of exit out of where one is being stuck. A portal, yeah.
I love that. Yeah. You said it seems not to fit.
Yeah. In other words, I am sitting here going, wow, here's another job I can't do. And I'm going to have to tell them that I don't have the energy to do it. I don't feel well enough to do it. And I don't want to get you sick. Okay. So if I'm cycling around that thought process and calculating all the amounts of jobs I'm not able to do on this trip, and someone offers this thought that says, can you come over for dinner? And we have a room provided for you. I want you to be ill and to be comfortable. in your own room and a bed,
Wow.
and the warmth of the house. And it stops my thought process. It stops me feeling stuck. It gives me an exit to that stressful thought process.
Wow. How
Let me tell
beautiful.
you,
What a
after
beautiful
most of
gift.
my
That's incredible.
after most of my healing process being done in my van, just to contain the bugs, it was so welcomed to have a warm bed in a warm house and a bathroom that was real close by and a bathtub that I can soak in. Well, you get the idea
Yeah.
that helps the healing process that much more. In fact, having the contrast of how I took care of myself in my van and the blessings that were offered to me in support of my illness, in support of my friendship with these people,
Mm-hmm.
it just really raised this generous and gracious place for me to heal in.
Wow.
And so all of these thoughts are fluctuating as I'm going in and out of frustration with one side effect or the other. I was able to breathe a minute ago and now I can't, and I can't talk.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
all these different things that my body is expressing that is part of the healing process. And having that type of support and having that type of discipline
Mm-hmm.
to allow for one thought to end or another thought to be introduced. I think that awareness and that self-care really helps on a subtle level to provide support for what my body needed on a more physical level.
You know what I'm seeing here? I'm really seeing how you used to talk about, Cleo, you can't accept the assistance from someone else that is outside of your own ability. That I had to be able to give to myself the same thing that I wanted to receive in order to be able to receive it. There are plenty of people in the world, and there are plenty of times when any of us says, "Oh no, 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 I can't accept this gift. Um, this is too expensive. This is too big. Um, this puts me in a position of that I don't want to be in necessarily." Um, and for you to be able to accept that gift speaks of your ability on a whole nother level. When you talk about self-care and the role it has in your healing, how much role does it have in the fact that you're able to accept someone's gift of a sofa? You know, you talked at the time about, well, I could have left and gone to a hotel or something, I suppose. How would that have damaged your friendship with those people forever? Even if it seems when you come back and you're well and they're like, "Oh, thank God I'm so sorry, but I'm so glad that you kept that to yourself, and that was really kind, and we really appreciate that, and thank you so much, and we really love you for that." Even if they'd done that, even if they'd had that reaction, even if you had the reaction of, "I am so independent and I'm so proud of my independence that I was able to go stay in a hotel," and things like that, how much would it have never taken your friendship with these people to a whole new level of deep, deep love?
Yeah. Thank you for inviting that level of intimacy because I think that is what is being invited when we encounter issues in our friendships, in our significant relationships.
Yeah.
That if we allow it to take on this supportive and encouragement, I just see it moving in a much different direction.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, I just love that we have that connective point.
Mm-hmm.
That there's just this level of gratitude and love and compassion that we found ourselves involved with because we chose to step into that energy. We chose to take that direction rather than the fear of it might be COVID and I might have just killed your whole family.
Right.
You know, we can be irradical. I don't know if that's a word. Irrational.
Irrational. Yeah.
Yeah, we can be irrational with our fear and go back up into our imagination and begin creating a catastrophe.
Right.
Rather than taking that same route and moving it into a miracle, a transformation, a blessing that will not only affect the person choosing it, it will affect anyone walking into the room.
Yeah, exactly. It'll
And
it'll
I
affect
think
that
that
house. It'll affect those children. It'll affect their children. It'll affect how they raise their families one day.
and it may give us some fun ways of accessing it. Like your grandfather, Liam's grandfather, your father, saying, okay, grab a spoon, let's sit on the floor and have some ice cream. Pass the whipped cream and the fudge, leave the bottom layer for the ants. I'm going to provide a link for a song that supports today's podcast that you can go and listen to on YouTube. But I really want to lock in that because it's through the playfulness and innovation that we tap into our higher self and our authentic expression, which takes us down a much different road than the one that fear and resentment or feeling remorse or
shame.
Or shame, right?
I was just noticing.
I am well.
Yeah. I was just noticing that everything that you were saying about really close personal relationships and damage to them and how this is an invitation to make it better, that this is also true of our most casual encounters. You're at the grocery store, so I've had pink hair for 15 years. And so almost every time I am out, somebody says, I love your hair, which is fun. And I enjoy quite a bit. One day I was at the grocery store and a man walked up to me and very purposefully said with a little bit of a smile, I liked your hair before, the way it was before. And I am used to a lot of compliments, frankly. And I did not at all take offense because I was so used to being complimented that I just kind of basically went straight into my I'm being complimented gear without really thinking about it. And I said, well, thank you very much, and I kind of went over a little bit and was like, that's so sweet of you to say that. I really appreciate that. That's very kind. And a lot of people standing nearby witnessed this. and were appalled. And there were women whose mouths were hanging open and were appalled that this man would say something that was not supportive, basically, in their book. And they like tried to apologize for him. And I was kind of taken aback. I was kind of like, did they think that he was insulting me? Because I didn't really take it that way. I really took it very playfully. And so as I'm shopping, of course, once you start shopping, you're shopping with the same people for the whole hour, right? If you're in the store and you start out in the vegetables and the fruit, and there's a bunch of people in there, you see those same people throughout the whole store because you all go together through all the different parts of the store. And so I saw this man about 12 more times over the course of the shopping trip. And as each aisle went by, I'm going, did he actually mean to insult me? He was actually trying to insult me? Was he actually trying to say that he preferred my hair to be not dyed? And as I'm walking, I suddenly am like, well, the man has gray hair. He doesn't have any right to make the point that somehow people don't change and that the original person is the only authentic one. And so I thought about this as I'm walking, and I see him again, and I go in the next aisle, and he catches up with me, and I keep going, and I run into him again. And suddenly I was like, I love how you've changed. I love how I've changed. And I shone brighter than ever through that whole store. And every time I saw him, I smiled bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was kinder and kinder and kinder to him. And by the end of that grocery shop, he could not look at me. He was embarrassed. And, that even that was not my intent in a way. I kind of wish I'd just walked up to him and said, I like how you've changed.
Well, and that really fits what our whole podcast has been about, which is the transformation from one experience to the other. And as energy enters my experience, I can add to it, subtract from it, amplify it, or soften it to fit what specific needs I have, and be gracious and grateful for the person who sent me that energy in the first place.
Yeah.
That we can add to each other's meaning and value, that we can raise the esteem of onlookers and people who cross our path because of how we choose to show up.
Yeah.
And so I really like how this idea of transformation can take the responsibility off or take the pressure off the person offering, because they're always going to be more short-sighted than the recipient's full experience. And as it transfers from the one offering the gift to the one receiving it, stepping into the energy of that gift makes it so much more potent and personal and intimate in the way that they activate its treasures.
So true. So beautifully said.
I remember a time, I was working with a group of students, and we were building upon our intuition. And so we were working with a client, and at one point they got up and left the room.
Who did?
and
The client?
the client got up and left the room. You may have heard this story before, Cleo, but the client was very upset, and everything that the students were looking at was incorrect and inappropriate and wrong, and so they left in the middle of the reading. Well, I went out to talk with the client, and then I came back and I explained to the students what had happened. Well, the fun part about the experience is that that client came back like maybe 6 or 9 months later and said everything that happened in that reading came true.
Wow.
And they came back to apologize.
Wow.
And so I wasn't able to tell the individual students about this, but I have told classes from that point forward that what you're looking at may be something that happens in the future. It may have touched upon something that was a wound in the past, and people are responding to their pain, not to your information. So honor the information that you're looking at, because we have set it apart to be sacred and holy. And it's not your responsibility to interpret it. It's your responsibility to notice it and to speak up.
Yeah.
And so it became encouraging later on to even more people because of how it was shared and how it transformed from that initial rub that caused them to leave in the middle of the reading, and for their appreciation in coming back and saying, I'm so sorry, but everything did come true. And, I feel embarrassed about how I acted, but I overreacted, But we took that story and added meaning to it, and it has blessed the lives of countless people since.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've, maybe over 100 students over that time period have heard that story and have trusted themselves to speak up because it was being noticed and it was important and valuable, even though the time for it to be accurate had not developed yet.
Yeah.
And I think that's another key point in transformation, is that as it is beginning, it will feel dissonant until it finds its place and purpose. And to continue building upon it with that vision of gratitude or compassion or love, whatever intention that you're setting it free, as it creates that synergy, it will develop in meaning and value.
Yeah. I've been reading books about working with kids who are sometimes, there's a positive and there's a negative diagnosis for every aspect of our lives, right? We can call ourselves whatever we want to. And so I've been reading books about people and children who are labeled as strong-willed, which can also be labeled as defiant. And trying to work with that energy, and as I homeschool with my son, I've been reading these books, and many, many times they give the examples that I see with my son every day, where he can be angry and rageful over something so simple as a request to pause the video that he's watching just long enough to find out what he wants for lunch, right? Just that. And yet with a strong-willed person, Strong-willed people are wonderful people, and they have this gift of being absolutely so powerful in their identity of who they are and in their rights, and recognizing that they're being trespassed upon when somebody wants to interrupt them, that they can be angry about it, about even the smallest request or infraction. And so changing that energy every time it comes up with just the slightest rearranging of my approach is amazing. To watch someone go from a rageful, insistent, and belligerent reaction to, from many, many times this happens when we're trying to get in the car. And so many times this is the reaction to, you need to get your shoes, you need to get your socks. We are getting in the car. It is 30 degrees out. Many, many times there is this rageful reaction to that. And just simply in the way that we ask the question, we can change it from this rageful insistence of, I can't find them and this is not my problem, to, well, I don't know where my shoes are. Or I don't know which shoes I should be wearing. And it's so amazing to realize that these incredible outbursts have nothing to do with me in so many ways, and that it's okay for us all to have a way that we would rather be treated, and that it is okay for us all to prefer to be asked nicely, and to prefer to be given the option, prefer to be given a reason why I'm being interrupted. Why are you interrupting me? What is your problem? You can go right back to this. I just need the information of what you want for lunch. Oh, okay. I thought you were trying to take everything away from me and tell me that I was in trouble.
I'm really glad that you brought up this example. And I would like to isolate a couple things that occurred while you were speaking. First of all, in a strength, there is a line in which the strength becomes an issue. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
In a weakness, there is a point that the weakness becomes a virtue. That becomes the magical space for transformation to occur. Those are the places where we can insert wisdom, where we can insert something out of context, like crossing over a playground to get to the slide.
Mm-hmm.
That in those moments where we can work with that energy, we can help it go from a weakness to a virtue, or go from a virtue to identifying a breakdown. Because when I overuse a strength, then I get in trouble with it as well.
That is so true. Oh my gosh. I love how you used to talk about this all the time. You still talk about this all the time. The idea that in the traits that we many times have a real difficult time with in ourselves, that we wish we could get rid of, or we want to change, that in those are virtues that are vital to us. I was really frustrated with, anytime I'm offered something new, a new experience, many, many times, I have this incredible resistance to it. And it's absolutely hooked into my nervous system and totally ready and willing to take my body to the full panic attack to prevent whatever it is that I really actually want, in many, many ways, that I am desperate for and eager for, and yet I might feel a little bit apprehensive about it, or a little bit certain that I've never done this and that I might really screw up pretty good. Things like, going new places with a client, taking a client into a really difficult topic that maybe I've never tried to work with somebody around that. And I'm pretty sure that I'm going to make some missteps, and I'm pretty sure that they could get pretty offended if I didn't handle it really, really well. And it's obviously something that requires some practice. But to be able to do those new things, we have to have a whole lot of flexibility and willingness to mess up. And I found that I had this rigidity that is really powerful, very powerful. Something that many, many times I look at and go, I just can't defeat it. It's so overwhelming. I don't think I couldn't win with it against it if I was in a wrestling match with it, And I finally realized this is my determination. It has been set with the intention of protection. But this is my willpower. This is my strong-willed character. And that if I change the intention that is attached to it, to this is not the power that stops me and protects me, this is the power that engages me, that this is my strength to move forward and stick to it, even when the interview with the client doesn't go very well, even when I have to breach some topic with somebody that is new, and I'm pretty sure that I don't know how to handle it gracefully. It is the part of me that can truly carry me with strength and determination and power and even eagerness, and maybe even joy and playfulness, and maybe make it so that, yeah, even my first experience with this might be funny, but it doesn't have to be a disaster and painful.
In previous episodes, we have talked a little bit about this. And what I love your description being is the example of turning your triggers into permission for your body to tell you what you're in need of and what you are ready for and where your power truly lies. Where is it held? It's held in that heart connection, that you speak your truth with authenticity, where people feel its power and are inspired and motivated to create change in their lives. Wow. That came from what once was a wound that the trigger protected and insulated you from any new information or progress, to now that trigger becomes a springboard to vault you into a virtue that you have been preparing all along.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, my friend, I think this is a beautiful place to put a bookmark for our next podcast. And I am so excited for this to be on YouTube with links to Facebook and all our website, compassionspeak.com. And this is fabulous.
Thank you for joining us today on Compassion Speak. I want to thank Michael Allison for doing such a wonderful job editing these podcasts. For you, the listener, for your topics and ideas that help us explore wisdom, spiritual gifts, and self-care strategies. Please post your ideas on the Compassion Speak Facebook page and on Instagram. All right, until next time, put into motion the changes you wish to experience from an intimate universe. God bless, and angels all around you.